What's up, guys? This is, oh my gosh, episode 5 of the Healthy Gossip podcast. I'm Krystle Chats, and these are two very special guests for me today. I have Dr. Leyla Ali and Viet Nguyen. So I have something to say about that. Is it Nguyen or Nguyen?
I mean, like, for American, they all say wrong. It's like for you, that's wrong. Like,
It
it's like I mean, like the I think the most correct way to say is like, and win.
Nguyen?
Yeah,
Nah, really?
like I mean, like, cause like how?
What's the right way in Asia?
Okay, I'm saying wing. It's really
Wing.
yeah
Okay.
yes, kind of happy wing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, wing,
Wing.
wing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Viet is from Kansas.
Yes.
He's from Vietnam.
Yes.
All right. So they you guys were never on the Krystle Chats podcast, so this is kind of juicy. So this is definitely an extension of the Krystle Chats podcast, and I just decided to turn it into this so it would be a little more specific because you're also special to me because technically you're the first. Because Jason was on last week. I don't know him as a comedian. Like, that's not how I know him. So the way I know Leyla and Viet are, we met in a class called LA Stand-Ups. Shout out to Joe. And I just didn't want my podcast to be another, like, podcast of, like, comics talking to comics about comedy. So we are going to be comics talking to comics, but not just about comedy. I did bring today, Leyla is the author of this book, Off Balance, The American Way of Health. I have not read it, but
What?
I know. But, I think it's completely relatable today to my podcast. And my podcast is about health and relationships, hence healthy gossip. It is supposed to be kind of like a pun. And I do want to talk about this a little bit. One thing I also do, guys, I talk about my personal life on this podcast. And so today I give them status quo update on literally the first 2 hours of the Healthy Gossip was just me just bitching about men and then saying great things about them as well. I'm going to hold this like this. Is that okay? Okay. I'm single, guys. So Leyla and Viet know that I used to like to bring all of my boyfriends to the comedy shows. They've met several of them. Yeah, and right now I'm single. So last night Viet and I were talking, and so Leyla, this man sent me Chelsea Handler tickets, and I went to her book tour show. And last night I opened up an email and I had Colin Quinn tickets. Do you think this is acceptable, that I just accept all of these gifts from this man?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you feel that way. So, and then Viet, last night I found out about you that you were, you're dating somebody.
Like, I mean, like going out. Is that called dating? Cause like I don't know. To be
It's the
honest.
same thing the way you guys like say it. Like you guys say whatever you want. So what does that mean? How did you guys meet?
Also, I mean, she my ex coworker. We used to work together. I saw her like she came back to work, so I saw her and like we started talking and now we're going out.
Did she make a move?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm kind of shy too, so I don't really like, how to say it, like.
So what happened?
We just like hang out. We talk a lot. Yeah, that's it. I feel like
Have you guys kissed?
no. Like,
Okay.
no.
Do you want to kiss her?
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like I kind of want to know her more because, like, right? I don't know how. I think that's how I get used in relationship in Vietnam because, like,
Get used?
I mean, like,
Get used to.
yeah, because like in Vietnam, I take a long ass time to get to know someone before.
You're classy.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, those guys. Like, I need to know someone before I.
Good. That's
You
very
know.
sweet.
You're
Yeah.
not Krystle's type.
Yeah, no. No. I'm in for the long term.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
very sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have another date planned?
It's about today, but like.
Today?
Yeah, but like we move it to tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. probably gonna go for a hike because I'm broke.
Oh, that's so sweet. Has she seen you do stand up?
Oh yeah, I told her.
But has she seen you?
No, I haven't have a show yet. I don't want to take her to like shitty open mic, you know.
Okay, so like maybe Anchor Bar. That's not shitty, right? That's nice. Or
Yeah.
you want a longer set? You want to do like
Yeah,
a fancy show?
Yeah, I'm waiting for like an actor show, like actor show to bring
Palm
her.
Springs.
Palm Spring, like Palm Spring.
Yeah. Thank you, Leyla. Leyla booked my first headlining
Yeah.
show October 1st. So I'm going to be performing for some
Is that
gays and elderly people. Is that right?
Frankie's Old World Bakery?
Frankie's Old World Bakery.
Yeah. So,
Okay, all three of us will be performing. We're going to road trip.
and
It-
it's their first comedy show.
It's the first official, and I'm the first. So I'm going to make history.
Yes.
The first headliner of
Yes.
something that could potentially last a long time. Leyla, we're also going to be trying to book a show in Vegas, and then we'll rent a van, and like us and a few other comics will all caravan down there, and
Friendship.
I didn't know about this. Okay.
yeah, because it's still in the making. The venue is established, but like dates and. I don't even remember what the venue was. Do you remember what the venue was called? I said it last night. It's a hotel. I can look it up
Yeah, you
later.
said- oh, hope so.
It's gonna be far. I'll eventually say it on the show or look on my website. It'll be there. I didn't add this show to my website, so I'll add it. The what is it called? Frankie's.
Frankie's Old World. Yeah. Frankie's Old World Bakery.
Okay, cool. All right. So that is that, and let's see here. Oh yeah, shout out to Barry because last night Viet and I went to Mike Hop and I looked at the date wrong and I thought we were going to Mike, and then literally last minute he booked us on a show at Larry's Bar in Venice, and it was really fun. So thank you, Barry, for booking us at Larry's. And I'll just go ahead and plug too. Last time you guys both didn't go, but I will say that K Squared in Long Beach was legit. I hosted it by myself, and I will actually be hosting it by myself once again on the 21st, Friday. Kelly is out of the country. Yeah, do you guys have any other, do you have any shows or anything that you want to plug, Leyla?
No.
Okay, just
Nothing.
just the bakery.
Yeah, just
What's in the
bakery,
bakery in Palm Springs?
Let me check my emails. Make sure there's nothing new.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, so just to reiterate, I just need to say thank you to these guys because I did comedy a long time ago, and Viet and I talk about this a lot. It's a lonely gig, comedy. It's long hours and negative pay. And a lot of negative pay, you just really, it's an internship / investment to begin to have the idea to do stand-up. So to have each other, like to Mike Hop and take classes is definitely something that means the world to me. Oh my gosh. So let's get into your book. Can you tell us a little bit about this book, Leyla? Just... what started this idea, and then what's a quick summary of it? And
Well, let's see. I've been a pharmacist now for 20 years, and along the way, I had an epiphany that there's something really wrong with the healthcare system. And so this came soon after pharmacy school. A lot of people were doing cleanses, and
immediately after pharmacy school.
soon after.
Okay.
Yeah, but people were doing cleansing and getting toxins out of the body, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I asked a friend of
Please.
mine if he could get me a cleanse, and he brought me over a couple books and I was just going to skim them, right, just to get the general idea. And it said they had things I never heard before. It said 95% of diseases are caused by what you eat. And I'm like, well, that can't be true. I have a doctor title in the healthcare profession. I would have heard about that, right? And so I pulled out my old therapeutics book, and it had all these disease states. And I looked up things like acid reflux and acne, and it said the causes are multifactorial and not completely understood. And basically, everything was unknown. They had no idea why all these simple things were caused, and they didn't attribute it to food. And so at that point, I really started looking at the holistic lifestyle and seeing what else there was out there.
So you never had any of this information while you were in pharmacy
Yeah,
school.
you didn't know anything about toxins or nutrition. I mean, we learned really nothing about nutrition.
Right. Because so growing up, what kind of diet did you eat?
The standard American diet, also known as SAD.
Well, what? But it wasn't the food pyramid back then, was it? Growing up?
Yeah, I mean,
already?
bread, milk, cheese, meat, dairy, all that stuff was recommended, and then limit the sugars, but.
Okay, because I thought the food pyramid came out in the 90s. Is that not right?
No, I
It
think
was in the
got
80s?
dismantled in the 90s, and they realized it was from the milk industry that created that. It was all for sales. So.
Okay. It's because yes, I definitely here I'm gonna say food pyramid origin. Okay, so in pharmacy school, somebody told you, oh, wait, yeah, see, first food, 1974 in Sweden. And then in 1992, the pyramid was introduced in the United States.
No, we grew up with it, so I.
Well, see, so I was under the impression that what happened was growing up because of like the ketogenic diet, like actually that's why people weren't really overweight and obese back then because they were just eating like, eggs, dairy, some like healthy fats, a little bit of, and also not nearly as much food. Fast food wasn't around back then or whatever. And then it was the low fat, high carb, high sugar diet that caused the obesity epidemic. So, and with saying that, are you more an advocate of like plant-based or like what do you think is like the essential diet for people
Yeah, I
now?
would definitely say plant-based. If you look at all the diets around the world, it's stuff that they have in their, plant-based from whatever their area they're in.
Right, exactly.
And when the fast
exactly.
food comes in, the processed, genetically modified, artificially flavored, and the microwaved, it's like it's not
Right.
food anymore.
Right, because I thought it was interesting that Joe Rogan brought up on his podcast about he was with Macaulay Culkin, and he was like, "How did the French do it? They just eat bread, wine, and cheese all day." And that's exactly what Macaulay Culkin said is that it's because the bread there isn't hybridized. Like in order to call yourself a bakery in France, you have to make everything from scratch. And then here, Lord knows what kind of science project you're eating.
Really, really bad. Yeah, exactly.
And
Bad.
I thought this was an interesting discovery from Viet last night is, you notice how every time we go out to eat, he usually gets like mac and cheese
Yeah.
and like that's really it. So he really just prefers to eat Asian food. Yeah, I didn't know that. That actually makes a lot of sense. So when you order Asian food, like what are your go-to dishes?
Like rice. Like seriously, I'm not like even try to be funny. But
No. My mom is the same way. Like we always have rice in our rice cooker,
Yeah,
24/7 in my mom's house. So I totally.
He just has so many jokes about rice already.
Yeah, I mean like.
Well, rice and what though?
Like rice, chicken. I usually like have like, I like curries.
Okay.
Rice with curries, but it's like, I think like every meal I have at least rice, like some rice to make me feel full. Like even if I have like 2 burgers for breakfast, I still need some rice. Is
Yeah.
that weird?
No. That was one of the first times in my life. I was literally in 3rd grade that I discovered that food is different. We went to the Philippines and we were eating the chickens from the farm. And I remember this is the first time I toyed with the idea of being a vegetarian/vegan. Is there were literally the chickens in the front yard, but I remember being on both sides. One, I wanted to save one of the chickens that was making friends with me, and I actually took it back to the city because I didn't want to kill this chicken. They never ended up cooking it. They ended up burying it for me. And then on the other side, I remember eating the chicken, and it was the most delicious chicken I've ever tasted. And they said, well, it's because, it's never frozen and it's right there and it's fresh, organic. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I really could. I was like, it doesn't taste like this when my mom cooks it or where I'm from. And I think that's the same thing, too, with like why some people who eat like grass-fed meat, they're getting the nutrients from the grass, because apparently our stomachs aren't made to digest grass, which is why apparently wheatgrass is really bad for you. Vegetables aren't, but just wheatgrass. We don't have the same stomach the cows have. But anyways,
That's like a new thing they're saying. Wheatgrass is bad for you. I don't think that's right.
I think I do for some reason, because I have I've when I drink green juice, I don't put fruit in it. I do spinach, celery, parsley, kale, bell pepper. I'll do all of these vegetables, beet, and I never, ever, ever feel sick unless I'm like super, super, super red healthy. But when I take a shot of wheatgrass, I instantly feel ill.
It's really detoxifying and dense nutrition, but they have it at a lot of the holistic cancer centers, and they
Mhm.
actually use wheatgrass pulp on like tumors and things to pull it out. I mean, it's really
Well, like by ingesting it, like that's
like as a wound care, like you put it on it.
well, so
But
that's
they drink
that's
it,
different.
But no, but they drink it too, and they
Okay.
use it in everything. I would not say that's a new thing that's been coming out, but I wouldn't buy that.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree, because there's a couple of things that I've
Yeah, it's like I don't know.
I don't get it.
You won't like it. I know that.
Yeah.
no, I mean, because I'm really big on like once you become healthy, like you can kind of listen to your body, which is why when I was a raw vegan, I realized I was doing something wrong, because although I liked what I saw when I looked in the mirror, I was getting like these like rashes on my arm. So although it felt good, I was eating way too much sugar, way too much. I did have a little bit of like, brain fog, etc. But I 100% knew, I was like, this isn't right. And then when I started doing more of like the herbs and the vegetables, I immediately started to feel better, because yeah, I was just eating way too much sugar. And you couldn't tell me though that well, a lot of the sugar it was still not like, it was like a raw agave, which is not fruit sugar. I mean, it's still sugar, but it's it's agave or like maple syrup, which is obviously not great for you. But there was something else that surfaced that apparently goji berries. That was one that I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that. Apparently goji berries are one of the superfoods that isn't great for you. And I know, but I remember, man, like there was a time where I felt like I could just live off of goji berries. Like I was eating a lot of them. But I just thought it was interesting. There's a few
I think
foods.
some get trendy for a while, and it's just
Mhm.
like, if you have some and add them to your diet,
Mhm.
but then somebody will find something wrong. But, I think that overall they're good. I wouldn't eat
Mhm.
them 20 times a day,
Right. They say that about nuts too. Like, certain nuts. They were saying that cashews, like in moderation, are good. But then when I was raw vegan, I think I probably had a pound of cashews a day.
Mm,
Like just pounds of nuts,
yeah.
pounds of anything. But, it's very expensive. And like I would eat like macadamia nuts, and almonds, etc., pistachios. But cashew was the one thing that I kept hearing over and over again, that you really need to kind of. It's always about like them being like hybridized and like unnatural.
Yeah, peanuts, I think, now, too.
Peanuts, yeah, the only nuts you're supposed to have were like, they're called jungle nuts. You get jungle nuts, and then there was another
Never heard
one.
of that one.
Yeah, well, apparently that's the only like raw peanut that you can get. It's called a jungle nut. So yeah.
That sound nut.
What did you say?
That sound nut. Nut. Like crazy.
Nuts.
It sounds nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Jungle nuts are nuts. Okay, so your answer basically when it comes to the food, Layla, is that you think that they should kind of like whatever, like where you're from. Like for example, like
Well-
I'm Filipino, so maybe like a plant-based Filipino diet.
No, just anything plant-based, simple, not processed,
Mhm.
moderation.
Whole foods.
Yeah, whole foods.
So,
meat, even I would say is okay.
Meat, yeah, if not processed. Right. That's actually one of my like problems I had with the vegan community is I don't like when I see vegans preaching like they're nutritionists, and then just like, oh, like they'll summarize meat into one group. They're like, oh, meat causes cancer. It's like, no, hot dogs cause cancer. Spam causes cancer, you know, like, but they're like certain wild caught salmon. I would argue that that doesn't cause cancer, or even some like fruit, like, you know, grass fed meat in very small moderations. Because if you look at the Paleolithic diet, it is a plant based diet, but they're very, very small amounts of meat. And they were eating a lot of organ meat. So like liver, like we don't really eat liver anymore, but apparently back in the day that was like what
Yeah,
we.
really dense nutrition. But the other thing too is you eat mostly plants and seeds and what's on the ground, and once in a while they'd have meat. Right?
Exactly.
It
It was
three
when you
times a
got
day.
to catch the
Yeah.
animal, right? And that's my problem with, again, that's what I was saying. My problem with a vegan just saying, oh, you know, it's bad for you. Period. It's like, well, like no, yeah. To me, if you're eating, you know, 4 times a day, like, or 4 days a week, and it's like, you know, plant-based, and then you slowly, oh, now you're going out for the kill, and then you have that small amount. Like, if we all ate like that, then I mean, that would eliminate a lot of these problems that they're saying, like, you know, with factory farming and everything, because we're just eating animals like it's just disgusting. It's disgusting how much we eat animal products, and so, but just to go completely on the flip side, like the extreme, and say, well, like eliminate it, period. Yeah, I get it. That's obviously going to help solve the solution, but it's not factual to say, oh, stop it because it's bad for the environment and it causes cancer. Like, it's just too much of a.
It's too black and white.
Exactly. And then plus you have a lot of people who know nothing about about, like, you know, or I feel like you just don't know because you don't care to know. You know,
Yeah,
it's just
I'm-
not you're not interested.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, I'm 21. I'm not really care about my health right now. You know, like.
I want to
eat-
let you know I bought my first raw vegan book when I was 18 years old. I skipped school to go to Barnes and Noble,
Oh wow.
and I found that book, and I still have it till this day. Yeah. Well, I was kind of like abused growing up in the sense that my mom really cared about my looks. So being at a certain appearance, like in my brain, I was like, look a certain way, or your mom is gonna like shame you.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's the same for my mom. Is it? I think it's the same for Asian mom. Like growing up,
Absolutely.
like you like your mom. I know we have the same thing. Like my mom doesn't want me to have like dark skin. Like
Yeah.
right? It's
No
not-
dark skin. Yep. And
No.
that, like, literally, a weight would be discussed
Yes.
sometimes before like grades in my family, which is not typical for an Asian
Yeah, no.
household. It's dark. It's dark, you know, hence comedy. Hello. Here we go. Sorry,
You're
I'm
like,
too
oh, I got
loud.
an A, Mom. Like, what?
Sorry,
You gained 5
did I
pounds.
yell in your ear? Comedy. Okay. Yeah, exactly. A, but ooh, that scale says 150, girl. I'm gonna need you to get an A plus.
Work
on the
out more and
scale.
study less.
Exactly. So what? So this is what? Is this taught? Like, is it the history? I need to read it. I'm gonna. I
So-
promise you, I'm actually gonna sit down and get, even if I have to.
You know, it's
skim.
actually a really easy read. I have people
Okay.
tell me they read it in a day.
Okay.
But I share the limitations of doctors and drugs, and then I also have interviews with people that were able to heal themselves from
Okay.
things that their doctors couldn't treat.
So because of that, you're not very popular. And are you working right now?
How dare you say that?
Well, you're not. Yeah. You're not very popular in the
It's-
pharmaceutical
In
world.
certain crowds, yeah.
Yeah. So have you? Are you working right now?
I'm not, no,
No?
but
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of talks, and I'm gonna start building a community and start because when I've been doing talks, people get really enlightened on. People have been on medications for a long time, and they learn they don't have to be. It's really a huge business system that we have here, you know. And I know you young guys don't get it yet, but you should read it before you need it, you know.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, in the next 20 years, just read it.
Read this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. I absolutely.
I mean, just to give an example, like diabetes costs, they say $16,000 per person per year, and they do blood testing and drugs and, you know, all this stuff, and you can reverse it in a matter of weeks. So
I-
that's
I actually dated a doctor. I've dated several doctors, but one of the
We heard
doctors.
about them.
Yeah, the one of the last ones that I dated, he works for Kaiser Permanente, and he said that he was using some of the money. Now I will say Kaiser Permanente, if you don't know, for listeners who aren't from California or wherever the hell Kaiser Permanente is different in the sense that they're the insurance and the hospital. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's where it's different because a lot of insurance companies will find you a doctor. If you have Kaiser insurance, you go to Kaiser hospitals only, which obviously has its benefits and its cons, pros and cons. But I love that I opened this up to the let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food quote. So he apparently started like a, I don't want to call it a garden because it was obviously a huge garden. Is there a word for a huge garden? Anyways, because he wanted to start treating.
A farm.
I mean, I don't know if it was a
Oh.
farm on a hospital. Yeah,
Okay,
it was a farm, a small farm, a
Okay.
schmarm. He wanted to start teaching people about, with diabetes, about how to eat. And I even asked him that. I was like, are you going to get killed for this? Because, you're like, apparently he's very like high up in the hospital where he's like, on the board of or the committee of whatever the hell like makes decisions for the hospital. And I was like, how I can't believe that they would let you get away with that. And because he knew what you knew,
Yeah.
and I knew that at a very young age too, like because I knew the whole time because I the first time I toyed with diet pills was I was 17, and I knew something inside me told me there's a way to care and like have the body that you want without having to do this, because like I remember I would eat in certain foods and then I'd wake up the next day and I'd either have bloat or my face would be bloated or my I'd have a pimple, and like there's got to be a way. And that's why the raw food diet was so fascinating to me, because I was like, holy crap, that makes a lot of sense, because the one thing that they've always told you no matter what is to eat your fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. You eat fruits and vegetables, obviously you're just eating a bunch of fiber, but still macros are something to consider, which is we could talk about for hours, but we don't have to go there just now. But yeah, because like food science, man, it definitely is something that I feel like people don't understand, because a lot of it has to do with money. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, if I had the budget, I would eat like a queen. But because my I pay, a lot of money, like, again, for comedy, for my podcast, for like my life.
So
So
if you don't have a lot of money, like the fast food is so much cheaper than healthy food,
So what do you think about? Yeah, you're right. You're right. I was gonna open up a can of worms there with fast
Yeah,
food, but like
yeah, we
let's
don't
not.
have
I don't want to go there. But no, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. And like people don't want to hear, oh well, get the salad at McDonald's. They're like, no, if I go to McDonald's, I want the stuff that's gonna really be tasty and not. It's all sprayed with pesticides and all that, anyways, and preservatives. So it's like
another can of worms. Yeah.
yeah, right, exactly. Okay, and the reason why I thought it was so interesting is, in her book, in the tour and the show, she reads the first chapter, and she does this interesting little speech in the first chapter about all of these medications, about how, like, I remember the one that struck a chord with me is because it's a very popular drug is like Adderall, and how she's like, oh well, I'm not really into Adderall, but if you don't like Adderall, you can take this medication. Oh, and then whenever you have a hangover, to what is it, like Excedrin? I've never even taken it. Take 2 of those the next morning, and then you'll feel better doing that. And like she talked about like Prozac and all of these medications, I guess, that she had been experimenting with, and then she gets into cannabis, which, if you have never listened to my podcast or you have no idea who I am, I work in the cannabis industry, and she talked about how weed cut her drinking in half, and how she just felt. So do you know that Chelsea Handler is actually more of an activist now? So she's been kind of like depressed her whole life, and she finally had her nervous breakdown when Trump got elected. That's what set her over the top. She checked into therapy.
Oh, my
She was like, "This can't fucking happen." And she was in her therapist's office, and she lost her shit. And then finally, the therapist was like, "Okay, I understand you're angry, but you've obviously been angrier longer than this. Let's figure out what it is." And it did turn out to be that her brother died when she was 9. She was the youngest, he was the oldest, and that was like her first heartbreak. So that's really where a lot of her pain had come from her whole entire life, and she never really understood. She just understood that because that happened to her, she needed to be strong. But I just thought it was fascinating that she went on and on and on about like medication, and then she just got to cannabis, and like she made it very clear. She was like, "This is not a book where I get sober, but it is a book where, you know, I talk about how like I've rediscovered," because I guess she, you know, dabbled with marijuana back in the day, and then now this was like her rediscovery. Is that the right
You
word?
just got that book?
She gave it away at her show. Yeah,
Oh, when was that?
like last week.
Because all I'm thinking is you read that one already, but
No, I didn't read it.
Oh, okay,
She read me the first chapter.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here I am sitting here. Nope. And yeah, I didn't read this one either. No, I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm not gonna. I'm not. You're not. Chelsea
I'm
Handler
not
is.
hearing anything. Like she read that book.
Chelsea Handler is not better than you.
Oh.
No. I just thought it was interesting that I was having you on the show today, and then I knew. Yeah, I had not read this yet, and then it was related because so Viet likes. Do you care if I put your personal recreational stuff out there
Wait, what do you mean?
about your cannabis opinions?
Oh yeah, I love it. Like seriously, I mean, like, it's not a. I'll say it's like it's not a. Like drug, it's not a popular thing in like Vietnam in general. We have it, but like it's not like popular, like here. I mean, like I
Well,
like.
you'll get arrested and like thrown in jail for cannabis in Vietnam, correct? No?
Not really. So basically, the Vietnamese law is basically like it's not illegal until you get caught.
Oh, well, yeah, that's here too.
Yeah. So basically,
And innocent
yeah,
until proven guilty.
yeah. I mean, it's,
Okay.
I don't hear. I like basically the situation for weed right now in Vietnam is like it's getting really popular. Like
Okay. Did you try it in Vietnam before you came here,
I
or
wa-
were you here?
I went back Vietnam in the December and I tried it. Yeah, we
Mm,
grow.
But where were you the first time you tried
Oh,
cannabis?
in America. For sure.
America. Okay.
Yeah, like when I first came here, it was like there's no weed yet. There's no weed in Vietnam yet. So the first time I tried weed was 2017. First time I went to Disneyland for the first time and I get high at Disneyland for the first time.
Edibles or smoke?
Edible.
Did you get kicked out?
Wow, edibles.
Yeah, I didn't know because like he gave me like, hey, you want some gummy bear? I'm like, gummy bear? Fuck yeah, have some gummy bear. And oh sorry. And like,
I'm just trying to make sure I'm in the picture too. You know.
and like I took it and like 2 hours it's kicked in. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck did you gave me, man? I'm like, start losing shit because like.
Losing
I didn't
his
know,
shit.
like, because I remember, like, the only thing I remember is like, we went on. I was waiting in line, right, and like, I'm in the ride already. I'm like, I asked her, hey, how did we get here, guys? I'm
Oh
like,
no.
yeah, and get
How
on-
many gummy bears did you eat?
I eat 2. And
Only 2, and it did that to you, huh?
no, and my friends, I think they saw me still acting normal, so they gave me 2 more.
Okay.
So and when it kicked in hard.
And what ride did it kick in?
So I don't remember the ride, but like I remember we going like, so we sitting on the seat, right, and it took off. So it's like we inside an airplane. It's
Okay.
I don't know, like riding around the world, I guess.
Around the world.
Yeah, it's not that scary, but like
What is that called? Again? It's a small world.
No,
well, it's like
it
an
sounded
airplane.
fast. Something that took
No,
off.
it's not that
Oh, it wasn't
fast. It's
fast.
like watching a movie, you know. It just
Oh.
Maybe it's a small world.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
small
like
world.
a movie, like they have that where your feet are hanging down.
Oh.
and- it's in the Adventureland, right? California Adventure.
Yeah, I think that one.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I
See,
think
I would be terrified because like I've only had really, really mild edibles and then the absolute worst to where I could barely stand up.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so for me, being in public where I was too high on edibles is a horror story for me.
oh,
I remember at Emily Razi's birthday party, and that
oh.
was just smoke.
Uh-huh.
And I had brought a pre-roll to share with everyone, and because I knew I was gonna share, and I have a pretty high tolerance for just in general, and maybe back then it wasn't nearly as strong as it is now, but I I hit it really, and this was a pre-roll from another dispensary, not from one that we sell, and I told the guy specifically, I was like, hey, I'm going to a comedy show, I want to have the giggles. You know, I just want to sit there and listen and laugh. And so I took the joint, I hit it as hard as I could a couple of times because I was going to share it. I basically wanted to hit it my hardest and then pass it away and then just forget about it. I was so high. And I haven't been that high off of smoke in a while because the other time that I was like extremely high was it was after the Flappers show that you guys came, and I took that dab. You remember
At
that
the
when
party?
Chuck drove? Yeah.
At the party, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
We went to that party.
Oh,
I
wow.
I could barely keep it together.
Yeah, yeah.
I could barely. I think I vomited that night,
Oh,
and
wow.
I haven't vomited off of like. And that's another thing is I dated a guy that would he knew how to properly dose the dabs for me.
No.
Well, because you know there's you know a certain amount. It's just like
Uh-huh.
any other weed. You know, if you have just the right amount, it's. I always tell that to my customers. It's like if you just if you have strong weed and you just take a little bit, you're gonna be okay. But people smoke all weed the same style, and that's how disaster strikes. Because you know, back in the day, if you're used to this cheap weed and you know you roll it up in a blunt and you smoke the whole blunt and you're just like a good high. Well, this California weed, if you roll it into a blunt, you're gonna be on stuck. You're not, and that's so the guy who had the dabs, he knew how to give me just the right amount to where I was never too high. So when we went to that party, I noticed she was like scraping out the last little bit because when we showed up, the
Yeah.
party was over. So and I'm sure she just wanted me to. Oh well, she's late. Like let me just give her. I didn't even know how to take a phone call because remember we were trying to find henna, and she was like
Oh,
just
yeah.
she was like just come down the hill, and I'm like, yeah, but where are you? She was like, I said come down the hill, and I was like, are you high? And she's like, Krystle, get in the car and drive down the hill. And I was like, oh, like you want us to drive down the hill. And I remember when we finally got to her and Donna and Siri, I was just, I could barely keep it together. And we had to drive from LA all the way back to Orange County that night. And
Yeah.
it was just a disaster for me.
Yeah, Jock,
Yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And thank you
Thanks.
guys for coming. They did, where in Orange County are you now?
Steel Beach right now.
Steel Beach, and where are you right now? Just
Yeah, Anaheim? Anaheim
okay,
right now.
Anaheim. Okay.
Yeah.
And congratulations, Viet just graduated with his associate's degree.
Yeah, I can't wait to work at McDonald's, you know.
Well, yeah, you were telling me last night that you're interested in other artistic ventures.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Like,
And tell anyone who's listening what your ideas are.
you know, like, I feel like I started I have a lot of ideas in my mind when I was a little kid, right? I just started to like write them down recently, so I kind of want to do more because I have a lot of ideas about like characters and you know, like stories. So yeah, and being like even though
So you're talking about writing.
yeah, even for like doing stand up comedy, it's writing a lot. Like I have to like think up characters and stuff. So it's like it kind of like it's like I'm coming back into my childhood, I guess. I'm like I start to dig up the character, the stuff I think up when I was a kid. Yeah, and you know, it just
So are you talking about writing more like novels or screenplays
I feel like
or
I kind of want to try it though, because I feel like it's really interesting.
because you know Layla's a writer,
Oh
so
yeah, yeah.
she might be able to give you some tips.
Oh yeah, I asked her a bunch of like
Yeah, we were
advice.
just talking about that on the way up.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because you
Alright.
know, I mean like, so I just graduate right, and I'm a tech 1 year off before I go to university right now, so I kind of want to spend this year to be like you know like discovering like what I want to do with my future, because like right now I'm doing business marketing. I mean I like marketing, but like stand up comedy and writing is more like I don't know, it attract me more, I guess. Yeah,
They're
so,
both good though. Mix them together, you know.
And
yeah.
Viet is also interested in an internship. If anyone out there is listening, and what is there any certain type of internships that you're like focused on finding?
I mean like I don't know, to be honest, like because right now I don't know for like writing internship or like
Okay.
I mean I don't know if I don't have any skill yet. I probably need
Well, that's actually what a lot of internships are. Like
Oh,
you
really?
find someone with that profession, and you literally just kind of
learn after.
tag along with them during their workday.
Oh really? If
Yeah,
that the
that's
case,
all
I'm
it
down.
is.
Well, like Flappers offers one too to help them with the shows.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
shit,
true.
really?
You should do that actually. I mean, I don't know if you want to drive that far that often,
I don't
but
care.
You don't have to have one. You can have a few. You know.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just afraid because like I don't like it's kind of hard to know what is your ability, I guess, because like you
Well,
know
worst case scenario, they think
They
you're
fire
terrible
you.
and they kick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
just,
you know it's
That's
like,
why they don't pay.
yeah so
Most of them don't, at least.
yeah, so you know probably I'm gonna try it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good luck with that.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll let you know if I got anything.
And Leyla, what triggered you to? So can I tell them this line in your set that really makes me happy?
yeah. If it makes you happy, sure.
Okay. Well, she always says she basically shits on being a pharmacist, and I'm just kidding. No.
No,
Don't
yeah,
say
I
that?
do.
Okay. Good. I'm all,
Wrote a book.
didn't you post it on YouTube? Because I'm.
But not just being a pharmacist, the whole entire profession.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
And then she has this brilliant line where she's like, and then now we have this desperate attempt to find meaning, which makes you, or which, maybe you do something like, try stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So what made that happen?
Stand-up comedy?
Yeah. Is it something you've like always been like had a interest in
Well, I
trying?
had people tell me throughout the years, "Oh, you're funny. You should, try it." But I did the Toastmasters for 3 years.
That's
and then,
right.
And then improv, and it just kind of called out to me when I went. I'm like, it's time to try it. I tried to get a friend of mine that lives there to go, and he's always kind of funny. He wouldn't, and it was just amazing. Like everybody going up with their funny ideas and having Joe rearrange it, and just remember Viet the first time he's up and.
Oh, wow.
Like nobody knew if he could speak English, and he came out with the funniest shit. It was
Yeah.
he just kept going.
Wait, and how did you discover Joe's class?
I just online, and it was the next
Okay.
one. Like I
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to take it now, and it was the next class happening.
Same. That's
right?
the same reason for me too.
Yeah, the universe called it out to us,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I want to give props to Joe's class too because I had been searching because I was living in Orange County, and I unfortunately, I mean, I don't really want to down talk, but I went to go audit a class in San Juan Capistrano, and I was like, no way. Not that I'm better than anyone, but I know how I wanted the showcase to feel, and I was like, nope, not really
I mean,
interested.
LA makes all the difference. You're in LA. yeah.
Unfortunately, it is true. Like people try to hate on LA and say, "Oh, you don't have to be in LA anymore," or which you can be. Also, there are other. I guess New York is obviously huge for comedy, but because they're like, "Oh, you can just be on YouTube," and it's like, yeah, well, if you want to be a YouTube star, or if you want to be an Instagram star, or something like that, but if you really want to network and eventually, like, be on a network station or Netflix, or open for somebody, or eventually go on tour yourself, this is where you do meet those people. So yeah, LA is definitely.
And, if you think about our class too, at least half the people dropped out, and he yelled at that one. He's like, you had a week. You have a show coming up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was no joke. Like half the people dropped out, and it's just really vulnerable to get up there, and you think you're funny, and then you get feedback. It's like all quiet, and
That is true.
it's hard.
I've taken Joe's class 3 times. Oh, and shout out to Hannah Khan, because my best friend here in LA, she reminded me that, God, wow, that was my 3rd time taking Joe's class with you guys. Or 4th? Was it my 3rd or 4th? Because I think I took, yeah, the second time taking level 2, and I took second time taking level 1, I took level 2 once. And I realized, oh my God, I could just take Joe's class again. And I went to go see her showcase, and I was like, yeah, this is a great class. I forgot why I've taken it twice, 2 or 3, whatever, however many times. And every single time, there is always somebody who doesn't go to the showcase. Every single time, there's somebody who drops out. So
A lot of people drop out. At least half, I think. Yeah.
yeah, well, because I think
If you miss and if you don't get up there and do the hard part, then there's no way to stay on it.
right, and it's not easy, and that's why I think one of my huge pet peeves is like people who. Oh, one of the things that I always do is this on the show is I talk about a troll of the week, and I will say. There was this one guy who commented on a post on mine for Instagram, and I didn't even, it wasn't even a stand-up bit. It was a bit about, it was just like a little snippet of a podcast that I had posted, and his comment was, why is everyone pretending that she's funny? And at that point, his page was on private, and there was like a cat picture as his avatar. So I was like, I like how I'm getting trolled by a guy who's on private with a cat picture as his avatar. But guess what? I went back on Instagram and I scrolled through and I saw his comment was still there, and I clicked on it, and he was no longer on private. And he was actually, I will say, a very talented musician. And I just thought that was really interesting. He didn't have a lot of followers or anything, but I remember he was like, is it called riffing on a guitar? Do you guys know? It was on a guitar, and he was just like riffing. And I was like, wow, that's really a shame. He was even playing piano, and it was really beautiful. I've always had some sick fantasy of like being, going back to my childhood and actually sticking with piano. So, and I just couldn't understand how an artist felt. I mean, I know we're all broken people, but like would just feel that he needed to say that. And with mental health being like this huge thing now, I just thought that was so
Do you think
fascinating.
it sucks more to be insulted by someone with talent or somebody that doesn't do anything? Because I've seen people do it like, well, let's see you try it.
Well, and that's why it was so interesting to me, because he was an artist. I feel like most trolls are people who, have normal jobs, who maybe have some like inner resentment because they at one point in their life wanted to be an artist or live the life of an artist. And so now they go to corporate America, and then they come home and they watch their shows, and then they get on the internet and they troll, which is fine because that's middle America. And, we have to accept that people are going to be mean. But also, it's like with art, it's all subjective, and you're not going to like everybody. We talk about that all the time. Like, there's people who are just insanely successful. Joe Rogan is the example I always use. And he has a lot of people who are like, oh, well, he's not really my thing. People they're like, oh, he's not really my style. I don't like his comedy. I don't think it's intelligent enough, or I don't, whatever it may be. And that's okay. It's like music.
Yeah.
Not everyone is gonna like your music, and I didn't understand that. Oh, and that was one of my questions I wanted to ask you. Right quick about. So, what about when it comes to mental health and treating mental? Excuse the sirens. A lot of those on the way over here today. Do you think that's acceptable? to treat like mental illness with
I guess it
certain.
depends what level you're talking about. If you're talking about
I'm talking about those
depression,
people on the streets, like that are like
I think
you know
there's a lot
shaking
of
and.
addicts out there. I mean,
Okay.
there's probably a mix, but it depends how willing they want to be treated, and how far they can go. I mean, how far gone they are too, right?
Okay, yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
I have a few people who are very like close to me that I know who unfortunately have been like know people who've been so far gone that like they had like the medicine helped because when I was a raw vegan I was the girl who was like, nope, that is wrong. There is a way to fix it. I know I am not God and I am not a medical professional, but I know that there's a way. And I was just that annoying girl. I was the troll. Like, that's, like no vaccinations, etc. And especially no medication, like not even a Motrin. I'm like, nope, nothing. Just be patient. The headache will go away. It's all meditate. Let's wait for it to just vanish. Are you kidding? And I just thought I was this shaman woman and I could just heal the world. And that was my thing until I started to really like step back and realize that, well, sometimes an immediate fix might be better because like I also forgot how long it would actually take to reverse a lot of the damage that has already been created, and a lot of that damage is irreversible. So I think a lot of those meds at some point just become maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big topic,
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's like,
yeah.
but when you say a headache, like I understand a lot of that is just caused by dehydration. There's some natural things you can do for it. I use Motrin sometimes, but it just depends.
Right.
But I think everybody's different if you keep that attitude. Some have more desire and will do anything to be healthy. Others won't, right?
Yeah. I guess that goes to the whole diet conversation we're having. I think a lot of it's not black and white.
Yeah.
And it's a case-by-case scenario, and there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to a lot of these issues. So, okay. So I guess and then along with the troll of the week, that's as a pharmacist, what is a tip that you would give to someone, anyone,
So like
just to
you
be
guys.
or just
College. College
in general to be to become healthier.
But my message is doctors aren't trained in the basics of health anymore, but they're the center of the healthcare system. So if you think about what you need for health, you need nutrition, you need to know how to deal with emotions in healthy ways, detoxification, and all they know is drugs. So if you understand that doctors only have one perspective before you get sick, because some people figure it only after they've been sick for years and getting sicker, and then they start looking. So if you know that now, while you're young, just like, look, you go and get their diagnosis and get the heck out of there and go find some natural ways to heal and other options.
Yeah. And I will say that was one of the most tragic stories that has impacted me directly. Is one of my very good friends went to go see a physician's assistant for mental health. And a lot of these appointments they're 30-minute appointments. And they're trying to diagnose you with being bipolar or being depressed.
30 minutes is longer than I've heard, so that's...
Right, or
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I've been in 15, 20-minute appointments,
Yeah.
but that's after we've already like had a conversation. But yeah, and they, yeah, exactly. And they're like, okay, from what I've heard, you're depressed, and here are these meds, and so many people are saying, okay,
Exactly.
and
Like,
it is a tragedy. It is an absolute tragedy. Okay, well, I think we are coming to the end of our episode here. Do you have any last words?
I just wanted to share one of the talks I just did. A guy came up to me and he said his mom was on hospice and she was expected to die in a month because she was on all these meds. So they just took her off of him because she was going to die anyway. And she got better and better and lived like 2 more years.
My God.
Right? So that's my
Wow.
departing message right there.
Yeah. And again, not to play the devil's advocate here, but I heard Steve Jobs kind of like tried to do the similar thing.
I'm not sure what he tried, but pancreatic's tough. But you have to look at
Okay.
emotions and detox. And,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's true. Anything for you, Viet?
Wait, what? For the
Any-
healthy topic?
No, anything,
No.
anything. Do you have any?
I don't. For the health topic, I feel like not diet, not. I feel like the main thing is like keeping the mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, keeping the mind straight. Cause like
That is so accurate.
I feel like I feel like there was a time I'm like the time before I'm doing comedy, before I know people, before I talk to people, it's hard, cause like you're alone, it's hard to be, you know, happy, but I feel like if you want to be healthy, just be happy. Find a thing that make you happy and do it. It keep you happy and healthy. That's my message. That's what I'm doing right now.
Thank
Being
you.
happy.
Comedy makes you happy.
And yeah, and then that keep me healthy.
And-
That keep me on the healthy road. That make me want to be healthy, too.
And I can relate to that so much because as I consider myself to be someone who has out of the world a much stronger understanding of like food science, and there has been so many times where I'm about to eat something that I've said, I don't care right now. I literally say I don't care right now, and then I'll eat it, or I'm sad, or I'm broke, or whatever. Like it's just this once, and it's because my mind is saying like whatever, like I'll fix it later.
Yeah.
And there's always a thought before it happens that triggers it, and you're absolutely right. Where if I was happy, like today I was in a good mood because I got my hair done, and I was like, you know what, I made sure that I didn't want to put anything bad into my body. And it was interesting too because a guy told me he had a dream about me, and he said that he was like, I had a dream that you were really depressed, and I have been really sad lately. I don't like to use the word depressed, because just because you feel depressed doesn't mean you are depressed. But I will say that it was interesting because to today's mood, I was extremely happy, and
Because we were coming.
oh, absolutely. And Viet had an amazing day yesterday, and we're about to go hit 2 mics in a row right after this. And, I'm excited because we're doing shit that a lot of people, wish they could be doing because, they're busy and they have lives and children and, like, shitty relationships and marriages and money, et cetera. But because the universe is allowing us to do what we love so much, like record a podcast, we choose to be happy, and I hope you choose to be happy, guys, and get out there, make small changes. It's going to make your world a better place to live in, and yes, it's your world, your universe. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Leyla.
Thank you. That was fun.
Viet, for coming, and thank you to our on-air. Why do I always mess up your title? Because I like it. This Paul, what is it? Engineer in on air produce. He didn't. Not as much today, but I love Paul. Thank you so much for everything, and follow us at Comedy Pop Up. I'm Krystle Chats, Krystle. You'll be able to see Viet and Leyla's handle on Instagram. Follow them. Like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week on The Healthy Gossip.